Hi, I'm Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we find out what's been going on in the county from the county mayor, Roger Sanderson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Have you had a great summer?
I have. I'm living proof that you can work 14, 15 hours at the fair and survive it.
Each day at the
day.
fair.
That's right. After you finish here, you get home about 10:30, 11, and
Get up at 4.
and get up and do it again. So we had a very successful fair, our most successful fair that we've ever had. And so hats off, and the credit goes to all the volunteers that put this on.
Yeah.
And of course our sponsorships, and I'm not going to try to name all those, but it was another successful fair. There were 2 or 3 nights that I've never seen that many people in my entire life at one spot.
I remember walking out into the Midway the first night, because walking around the arena for a while, just talking to people and taking pictures, and I'm thinking, jeepers, there aren't a whole lot of people here for the opening day of the fair, and I walked down to the Midway and I could not move. It was incredible.
It's a real challenge. Of course, I think you have to say, and most people know this about any event that you have, it's weather.
Yeah.
And we had outstanding weather except for one afternoon of the fair. The last day of the fair, we had some rain, and it caused us to reschedule how we're going to park cars. But the weather was fantastic. It just goes to show you in our community that people want good entertainment for about 3 hours.
And reasonably priced.
And reasonably priced. I mean, depending on what nights you go, you can literally go out to the fair. It would cost you nothing to get in, and then reduce tickets if you like to ride. But the rest of the evening, other than what you eat, and believe me, there's a lot of food consumed out there.
But you also can bring your own, which was a nice factor
Yes.
With the fair, is that you could, people that wanted to save money and just wanted some good entertainment but didn't have a lot of money could bring their own in and enjoy that in the little picnic area. And
all the major events are party admission to get into the fair. We don't charge extra. Now, I think maybe the pony rides, which is an event, you pay a little extra for, but outside of that, it was just fun-filled, packed. Of course, this year we unfortunately had to introduce a new security measure, that when you came to any of the gates, that if you carried a cooler, you mentioned bringing your food and drinks, although we don't allow alcohol, but if you brought some of the others, they were inspected. Your purses, your fanny packs, your backpacks, all those things were inspected, and that was a result of just making everyone feel a little bit more comfortable based on what had happened at a local theater up in Davidson County. And we're seeing that trend. Some of the actions of a few people in our society is causing the rest of us to have to react to things that we don't like to do, and they cost money. But it's kind of 20 years ago, you and I could have walked out to the airport and got on a plane, and not today. You're going to go through several levels of increased scrutiny on security issues. So we've had to implement that at our fair, but we had very few people complain. Most everyone was being thankful and opened up their purse or their backpack, and there was no incident whatsoever. But again, it makes people feel more comfortable, and lots of law enforcement out there. So the sheriff and the Franklin Police handled the law enforcement outside the gates on the main roads, and the sheriff's departments were pretty much inundated on the inside. So people feel good and safe, and great weather, and the fireworks, and help many organizations. We high school, Centennial, Page, Ravenwood, to name a few that come to my mind. We write a check to them and for their help in the fair, and then we do scholarships, and then we put quite a bit of money back into the arena itself, the Ag Center, which saves taxpayers, because the fair is a 501.
Right.
So there'll be new changes for next year, and already we're trying to get our hand around a Mardi Gras theme next year. I'm thinking about getting Newt Dandley just to put on his beads because he's out there as much as anybody, and we'll just let him let him be in charge of that aspect of it. You know.
The ambiance.
Yeah, the ambiance. Maybe the beads will help color the color of his hair. You know, we get some. He is not going to like it. Well, he's not going to like it. His hair's.
You're walking on dangerous road here.
I don't tell him what he'll put up on this screen. But so next year's fair will start a couple of days earlier. This year it started on the 7th. Next year it'll be on the 5th.
Yeah, the first Friday. It's always the first Friday of August, so it just depends on when it lands.
And on top of that, we've had school to open up.
Yeah, so to me it was pretty amazing that it did as well as it did with all the things working against the fair, with school opening up the same day as the fair. The tax-free weekend was that first weekend, which seems to always be that weekend anyway, but a Wilson County Fair had opened up the last weekend of the fair, and it was...
There's a variety of other events that are going on. It just, again, I point out, I think most people like good, clean, safe entertainment for their family.
And the nice thing about the fair is something you can go to for a couple of hours. It's so inexpensive that you can just go for a couple of hours and leave rather than spend the entire day or the entire night.
Like in an amusement park, you almost feel compelled to stay the whole day.
Yeah, especially you pay that much, you got to stay. But with the fair, there's so many other things to see and do.
Well, thanks to all the volunteers. And then school opens up. Dr. Looney just reported that before Labor Day, we've got over 200 additional kids that we weren't planning on. And of course, they don't come in nice little neat packages of 25. They come onesies and twosies all over our 41, I guess, schools all over the county. And it's just amazing that our county continues to grow. And certainly we've got traffic issues. Everyone knows that. We're cities and counties and state. Everybody's trying to look at it, try to find some quick, short fixes, and then look at the long term. What do we need to do? But people can continue to move here. The real estate market is just on fire, they tell me.
And it's hard. It's hard for someone living here to understand what's going on in other counties and other states, because there's so much activity here in this area, in Middle Tennessee.
Lots of good jobs by the private sector. You know, government, you and I have talked about this over the years many times, government doesn't create jobs.
No.
Now, there are politicians who would like to tell you they do, but we really don't. And I've never subscribed to that. What we do provide, the atmosphere, or another word is a conduit to getting things done. You help provide for good public schools, which in turn encourages businesses and people, because we want our children to have the best opportunity they possibly can.
And you create an environment that draws businesses with low taxes and just a good working environment.
It's kind of a formula that has worked here for several years.
Yeah, it seems to be working.
Maybe someday somebody in Washington will figure this out. And
you think?
And I know we're not supposed to be political on here, but we have our issues and we have our things that we need to work on. But jobs are paramount for the success of a community, and in order to have jobs and companies moving here to create those jobs, you got to have good schools, and you got to have this quality of life that we've all learned to accept. That is pretty good. We're spoiled here.
Yeah, very.
But people take pride in Williamson County, Franklin, Brentwood, Nolensville, Spring Hill, Thompson Station, Fairview. They just take pride in their community, and I don't know that I know another community quite like
I don't know another county. You know, there's communities all over the country that are like, but it's just it's county-wide. It's not just Franklin. It's not just Brentwood or the other cities. It's those cities and the little communities around the cities too, that they band together when people need help. They're just really proud of where they live, and participation, and like you said, volunteers. The 1,600 people that don't get anything but a ticket out of it to put that whole thing together. They work almost a whole year ahead of time, and then spend a whole 9 days.
Interesting you said that. I'll interrupt you. We tried something this year and it was very successful. And I don't know that you, as in the press, have picked up on it, but if you're into the creative arts area, there was a group of ladies, and I think it was all women, that put together a quilt. So they sold these patches, and I'm going to say they're 12 inches by 12 inches. Now, I remember
I did a story on that.
I believe you did. I couldn't think of it. So I remember my grandmother doing quilts. My mother didn't do quilts. She didn't enjoy that. Now, she had her talents. But my grandmother would do quilts. So at last year's fair, they had a little packet, and they gave so many, I think there were 41 patches they gave out to different people in your community, and they had a theme, what that theme was to be, and it was red, white, and blue.
Right.
So these ladies took those patches, and last year's fair put them up on a board, and you voted on them. Which one did you like the best? And the winning patch would get the center spot of the quilt. So this whole last year's ladies sewed the quilt patches together to make the quilt. And so in the off season, we applied for, you have to do it to have a raffle in this state. It's a form of gambling, they say. I don't know that that's true, but it's what they say it is. It's the law, so we have to do it. So we bought a raffle permit that we could sell up to 5,000 tickets for $1 a piece. And at the end of the fair, put it in a barrel, spin it around, and someone drew a winning number, and that person won it. So we sold about $1,600 or tickets on this quilt. Well, all of that money goes back into helping these ladies promote next year's quilts, which it was up on the wall, and so the same procedures we'll go through for next year. And so we're really trying to encourage that, because that money helps our senior citizens area, our quilting areas, and it's just highlighting, once again, what you just said, the involvement of our community.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
Now, I don't know the first thing about quilting, but I know.
Well, I know
I
a little bit
and I bought some tickets trying to win that beautiful thing. And I couldn't win. I come to find out, after they took my money, Beth looked at me and said, "Well, you can't win." And I thought, "What do you mean I can't win?" I said, "Well, you're
a member of the board.
You're a member of the board, and the contest rules are with the state." And I thought,
darn.
And she'd already taken my money. You think she'd give that money back to me? No, I contributed to the Williamson County Fair Quilt Association. Is what I did. I did get my daughter to sign, but she didn't win either. But it was just amazing, all of these things, and the little Debbie's. Contest.
How in the world do they look at a little Debbie cookie and come up with the different things, the lions and the barnyard things, and wow.
And you just take the talent. I mean, you'll see a lot of these shows. Newt and his crew, Heather, they'll show these shows throughout the remainder of this year. The pageants, the music venues,
the kids that sing your heart out. My goodness,
they're gorgeous. And so if you didn't make it to the fair, if there's a specialty you want to watch, it'll be on the local channel. And of course, Newt and his staff, they're out there from morning to noon till nighttime trying to pull all this together. And it's just that volunteer. Yes, they're paid people with the county. But they go way beyond the boundaries because they want the people to enjoy it through the local TV shows. And then, of course, finally, and wrap it up about the fair, is the agriculture side. We had one of the largest beef and goat shows we've ever had. The 4-H boys and girls had a sale of their cookies and their cakes and their livestock, beef, and we had
sheep.
I think we had about 17, 19 different steers this year. Had a very good showing of lamb and goats is sold this year. So I mean, it was a throwback in time that you see men with chewing tobacco in their mouth. I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it's bad.
But it's a reality.
It is reality. Leaning on the fence, bidding on something.
Yeah.
And it was
in their overalls.
Their overalls and their cowboy hats, and I saw some CEOs of companies that were out there dressing the part. They weren't out there in their ties. They were out there in their blue jeans and kind of enjoying that way of life that it used to be years ago. And of course, beef prices just went out the ceiling. And so those 4-H people were able to put some money
back into their program.
In their program.
Yeah.
And it goes to those kids that raise those steers. It helps them with their whatever they decide to do later in life.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's a great opportunity. All these things used to happen. These little shows for the 4-H used to happen independent on their own, and they had difficulty drawing. But now the fair allows people to participate in, and for people in the county to realize that this county isn't all houses. There is still land out there being farmed.
55% of our county is undeveloped. Mm-hmm. It's not in the city.
It's not in the city limits, and it's just open land.
A lot of it is open land. We have a beautiful county to begin with. The rolling hills and the timber and certainly all the historical rock walls that we have, and it's just
take a ride out into the countryside and see the beauty out there. You get the rolling hills are more impacting because when you're just climbing up some country road, tree-lined roads that are they're just gorgeous.
And we've got little local grocery stores all over our unincorporated areas, Huff's and
the new one out our way, Sullivan's.
And
she's doing a bang-up breakfast.
And you've got Fox's that have been around a long time. Yeah. You've got down at South Hall with Kelly King.
Halfway Market.
Yeah,
and then down the Burwood.
You've got them all over our community. That if you're on a Saturday and you're just wanting to get out and say, I think I'll take you into beauty, go find one of these.
Go get you a fried bologna sandwich.
Fried bologna sandwich or something, and we'll talk to your doctor about it later, I guess.
Just one day we splurge.
So the schools that we are seeing the growth in, Dr. Looney is saying, there's individual communities that are having a lot of backfill. Scales area, for example, is one where the older generation's moving out. We've talked about this before. New generations coming in, remodeling a house. So some of those schools in the Brentwood area are growing at a little rapid pace. Nolensville, I don't think we could talk. If you haven't been out to Nolensville in the last 18 months, it's unbelievable what's going on out there. In fact, August of 2016, a year from now, we will open a new high school and a new K-8 school that's going to be.
Yeah, it's hard to believe just 10 years ago, all the kids from Nolensville were going to Brentwood for school, except the elementary. Or Page. And now they've got their own schools.
They've got a couple of elementary schools, a K-8 school, and now we're opening 2 more. Spring Hill needs another elementary or 2. I got tickled at Dr. Looney. It was about the first part of this year, 2015, and they came before the county commission and said they needed to expand College Grove. In other words, take the footprint and add a wing onto it or add more rooms onto it. Well, for many years, College Grove was
just not.
It was 200 to 225, 250 kids, and
it was the second smallest school besides Pinewood.
Yeah, at the time. And of course, Pinewood's no longer around, so they became the small school. So they added 8 or 10 classrooms. Well, he told me recently they're full.
College Grove is beginning. People have discovered College Grove.
And there's been a few county subdivisions that are out that way, but it's just amazing. It's all over our area. It's not just in. We know Cool Springs area is growing, but when you get out into the other
little
parts,
pockets,
they're still growing. So it's going to be a challenge. We'll have to hire more teachers than what we anticipated. We were very fortunate. We were frugal last year in our budgeting processes. It was a very lengthy process, and the constant conversation and disagreement on what you should have, and that's just part of county commissioners and school board members probably differing on
and making sure that you're justifying what you need.
Yes, and paying for it and keeping taxes low is a challenge in this county. And because of the growth, you have more dollars in which to work with, as opposed to if you were not growing. Of course, the argument would say, well, if you weren't growing, you wouldn't have to be building a school building. Well, you still got to pay your debt.
Exactly.
You've already committed to that school, so now you got to pay for it. So it's a catch-22 situation, but unemployment's still one of the lowest in the entire state. Good jobs are still available. Our ACT scores on the school side are the best in the state. Graduation rates are the best. Do you need any improvement? Yes. There's always room for improvement in the way we do things, and that's what Dr. Looney was saying about the schools. And we do the same thing in county general. I know the sheriff is constantly trying, Sheriff Jeff Long is constantly trying to balance the work schedule and the activities with his men and women out there on the roads. As communities grow, you need more law enforcement.
Exactly.
Now, unfortunately, but the reality of it is that costs money to add. You add one person, you got to provide a car and equipment and all the things that go with that. I think this last year you got 12 to 13 different new people to backfill some of these shifts, and each school requires a school resource officer now. So, I mean, it's just in training for those school resource officers.
And continued training for all the other officers, too.
That's right. But I think it's always interesting to me when I look at the budget. Our Parks and Rec budget is about $1.5 million, $2 million less than than the sheriff, which most communities don't even have anywhere close to that. But we've invested our energies and dollars and cents into our youth to keep them busy, keep them hopefully off the street, be involved in your local community. And then on top of that, each of our cities has some limited degree of sports, leisure sports, Parks and Rec, and many of those cities work with the county, and we try to provide them together, which are much more efficient way of doing things. But it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. And then now there's other things going on in the county, too. You've got the new public safety building. That's fixing to be done pretty soon.
Spring of 2016, we're building a very large complex that will house all of our, let's call them public safety people, at a time of hurricanes and tornadoes and bad windstorms. We're literally, this show is being taped at the complex. Our 911 center is in our basement. So in May of 2010, we had the flood. We were bailing water out about as quick as it was coming in. And so that
it was a reality check.
It was a reality check. And as the sheriff and our law enforcement and our emergency management people were trying to get out, we could have done a better job, but we didn't have the equipment and we didn't have the training. Fortunately, we got through it. People just harnessed up themselves and said, let's get this done.
Right.
But the reality of it is we need to plan better, which was a shortfall on my part, that we hadn't put ourselves in a
It's hard to
position.
foresee something you can't foresee. But now but since then, everybody's learned you have to.
You have to be a better prepared community. And so we've invested in our community through public safety, and we're putting fire stations and equipment and building this particular building so that when that next time occurs, or when something that's needed, we'll be bringing in the Franklin and Brentwood. We've also invested very heavily in our infrastructure of telecommunications. We have a network communication that now Brentwood and Franklin and Williamson County the radios and all their communication, they can all talk to each other, or we're not there yet, but we will be able to communicate. And in our peripheral cities, the Nolensville, as their community grows, then they'll need to buy into it and provide their infrastructure, but we'll have one central hub of which we all know what's going on. These men and women get together on a monthly basis and talk about the direction they're going in and what they need. but all that costs money.
Right.
But it is, I know your position is like at the national level, you've got to have good security. You've got to have those systems in place for emergency, but also in proper planning as we go down the road.
Right. And that's all due to the growth that's caused this to happen. I mean, it's all tied in together. It's not only roads, it's not only the sheriff's department, it's everything. Is affected.
Well, in our law enforcement community, our judicial center, we've talked about this throughout. The jail is almost 30 years old now. Cities don't have a jail. Counties provide the jail. Our court system, each city has a traffic court division with a judge, but the criminals and the misdemeanors that we have to go through, as people move in, there's more activity.
Yeah.
And the corporate side, there seems to always be lawsuits going on into that area. So you've got to provide that level of service, and that costs money. New courthouses and so on.
It seems as if you just get one new building built, and all of a sudden it's got to be expanded on, or you need another new one to.
And you have to pay for as you go along. I mean, that makes it sound like when we get $1 million, we spend it on something. Well, the reality of it is, we build schools for 20 years, and we have to pay that debt off. The same thing will occur over in your law enforcement community. You try to pay for those things as best you can with the current base of taxes, but there's no way you can keep up with the kind of things that you want to. Now, you can say no and not have them, but most of the people understand there's a lot of things.
Yeah, certain things you need to need to have. You need to have security. You need to have emergency services in an emergency when you most need them. That's the last thing you need to break down during a flood or tornado or hurricane or whatever it is that we happen to.
Well, I envision the day
But,
we'll see our law enforcement. We'll have to have our own. Not any time, not tomorrow, but I think you'll see where they'll need their helicopter to be able to get from point A to point B. Certainly the TBI, the FBI, they're constantly flying in our community, looking for the happy weed that's out in our fields. It's still a good cash product, but it's against the law. Yeah. And so that's just the way it is.
And we've got a lot of agriculture out there.
We've got a lot of agriculture, and corn covers up a lot of sins out there. So, I mean, you have to.
It's not all pumpkins out there.
There's not all pumpkins, and so kind of got me off the subject there. But at the end of the day, you've got to provide those things.
Right.
So I know we got to go.
So anyway, this is what's happening in the county right now, and we'll talk to you again next month on County Happenings. See you then.